we're back. 4.8 Molecular Genetics Overview. So you should know that DNA is the genetic material that is inherited. Oh, by the way, if you're writing these notes down for the first time, the highlighted stuff, the yellow stuff, is what you definitely need to write down. The other stuff is you can, if you want to. If you're doing this at home, you have a little bit more time maybe than we did in class. DNA is the genetic material. Okay, it's inherited from the organism's parents. Chromosomes are just DNA wrapped around a protein. Each chromosome has hundreds of genes. Each gene has alternate forms called alleles. An example is on chromosome 11. Remember, you have 46 chromosomes that make up 23 pairs. And chromosome 11, there's a gene for hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is what carries oxygen on your red blood cells. Now, the normal gene for that is obviously it carries oxygen. There's a recessive allele version, though, that causes the hemoglobin to be misshapen, and it causes the red blood cells to be sickle-shaped. So you can have normal hemoglobin. You can have what they call sickle cell trait, which means you're heterozygous. You have normal hemoglobin, but you carry the allele for sickle cell. Or if you're homozygous recessive, then you have what they call sickle cell disease. All of your hemoglobin is sickle cell hemoglobin. All right. And then homozygous, homo means the same. Zygous means having joined. So if someone says that your genotype is homozygous, they mean the two alleles from your parents were the same and they joined in the zygote when the zygote formed. Heterozygous means two different things joined. Okay. Genotypes are your genes. So just remember geno and genes. And then phenotype starts with PH. So is the word physical. So phenotype is the physical expression of the genes. All right. So going back to the sickle cell example, if you're heterozygous, your genotype is heterozygous, but your phenotype is normal hemoglobin. If you're homozygous recessive, then you have two copies of the sickle cell allele, and your genotype is that you have sickle cell disease. All right, so you could pause it here if you wanted. You should now be able to answer all of these questions. You might have to go back in your notes a little bit, but you should be able to answer all of these questions, certainly by Friday. And then 4.9 genetic disorders. So all diseases can basically be put in one of two categories. They are either infectious or non-infectious. Infectious basically means the same thing as contagious. If it's infectious or contagious, it can be spread from person to person. If it's non-infectious or not contagious, then it's not going to spread from person to person. For example, COVID-19 is infectious. It spreads from person to person. That's why we wear a mask. I have students in the classroom right now, so I'm wearing my mask. So are they. Cancer is non-infectious. You're not going to catch cancer from being in the same room with somebody. Down syndrome is chromosomal. It's not infectious. You can't catch Down syndrome. Right? Genetic disorders are inherited. They're passed down through the genetics. They can be caused by a mutation in the genes or a mutation in the chromosome. Recessive genetic disorders, you have to have two copies of them. Tay-Sachs affects the nervous system. Cystic fibrosis affects the mucus in your lungs, makes it really extremely thick, which makes it's going to be hard for those people to breathe. Dominant disorders, you only need one copy of it because it's the dominant trait. An example there is Huntington's disease. All right. So you can be the carrier of a recessive trait. You cannot be a copier of a dominant trait. You either have it or you don't. Okay. And again, You can pause it there if you need to. And then you should be able to answer these questions. Okay. So you can pause it here and quiz yourself, and then go back to the notes if you need to. All right. See you later. Stay curious.